But anyway, that's a little bit about Digital for Good. I want to get us started with a little bit of an icebreaker. So we're going to go around the room and we are all going to say where we're calling from. If you had to rate your week from 1 to 10, what would be your number and why? And finally, have you ever been to a Students for Good meetup before? I'm going to get us started and we're going to popcorn around the room. I am currently calling from Washington, D.C., but I live in California. I would rate my week a solid, sorry, I'll get back to that chat in a second. I will rate my week a solid 8 out of 10. It's been a very good week, a lot of work, a lot of classes, but having a lot of fun, and the weekend has been awesome. And this is, I want to say, like my 10th Students for Good. I've been to quite a few, and they're really inspiring. So yeah, I am going to popcorn it over to one of our panelists, Tess.
Hi guys, I am calling in from a small beach town in Southwest Michigan. I'm actually in an ice cream shop right now, so if you hear some background noise, that's what's going on there. My week, probably I would rate it probably a 9 out of 10. I had a pretty good week, saw a lot of my friends, got outside a lot, got to go to the beach this weekend, so all around great time. And this is my first Students for Good meetup, and I'm really excited to be one of your panelists today. And I'm gonna popcorn it to Ari.
Hi everyone, I'm Ari. I'm calling from San Jose, California. I rate my week an 8 out of 10 just because I've had some back to school stuff, which is kind of bittersweet. I'm kind of sad summer's ending, but excited to get back to school. And even though I'm a Digital for Good intern, this is actually my first Students for Good meetup, so I'm very excited. I'll popcorn it to McKenna.
Hi everyone, my name is McKenna. I would rate my week probably like a 7.5 with school starting. It is bittersweet, like Ari said. And also this is my first Students for Good meetup as well. I'm gonna popcorn it to Janine.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I can't turn my camera on right now. I'm on my way to church camp actually. But I'm calling in from the Bay Area, so California. And I'd rate my week a solid 7. Yeah, school's like right around the corner, so I agree with Ari and McKenna. Yeah, it's bittersweet. And this is also my first Students for Good. And I am going to pass it to Michaela.
I think she might be having some technical issues, so we're going to skip Michaela for now. But hi, Michaela. We're so happy you're here, and we are going to pass it over to Varsha.
Can you hear me?
Yes, and I apologize if I said your name wrong.
Oh yeah, you said it correctly. So I'm calling from Maryland in the Mid-Atlantic, and so far my week has been a 5 out of 10 because I am stressing about school and like a bunch of other commitments, but also it's been pretty chill because they will kind of rack up when school year starts. And have I been to a Students for a Good meetup before? This is actually my first time. If you saw my Discord messages, because I got the wrong time, and so I'm happy to finally be joining. But this is my second year, and I can help. So
Thank you so much for being here. And we are going to do one more. We're going to do our next panelist. And then everyone else, can you please drop your 3 answers in the chat because we're going to be a little bit short on time. But we are going to pass it over to our other panelist for today, Jihan. And I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Please correct me.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Samantha, you almost got it right. Jehan, very close. So I'm calling from Laurel, Maryland, so also from the Maryland coast, like the east side of the U.S. And in terms of like how my week has been so far, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. I think it's been wonderful. Like I've been able to travel a bit, but also been able to get a lot of work done for this upcoming semester in school, and just a couple things I've been doing this summer in terms of research. Yeah, so in terms of Students for Good meetups, I have been to one, and that was actually in March of 2024, so a year ago. And during that like panel, I was a panelist. So I've been to that, and it's been a wonderful experience just to meet fellow change makers, and really just be inspired of everyone's missions, the projects they're working on, and I think it's been such an honor to be here. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Thank you so much, and I can't wait to get started. Today is going to be a really fun one. Our panelists are awesome, so let's get to it. Really quickly, the rundown of how it's going to go is we're going to start with our panelist presentations, and then once they are all done, we're going to go into a Q&A session where I have some pre-written questions, and then you guys can all ask your own questions as well. And then we'll go into a little like closing statements. We're going to get all their contact information. And yeah, it's going to be a really fun time. We are going to start with Jehan. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Hi, everyone. My name is Johanit Sassi, and I'm the founder and executive director of STEMUp. STEMUp is an international organization, and this was founded almost 5 years ago, so in 2020. But we really launched in January of 2021. And so really the goal of STEMUp is to promote female representation in STEM across the globe. We primarily focus in community projects. So where I'm from, Maryland, we have done a couple of projects, and we are launching one for this fall 2025. But we do like to focus a lot of our social media campaigns and really just initiatives that we work on virtually, so that way it's accessible like throughout the nation as well as throughout the country. And just a bit of background about STEMUp. STEMUp is really just committed again to empowering girls and young women who are interested in STEM, but really just in any fields within education, who primarily come from underrepresented and minority backgrounds. As someone who is a minority myself and a woman, I think it's super important to be able to just advocate for this mission. But in addition to that, to provide resources so young women and young girls can feel represented, and so that way they can actually feel like they can achieve the goals that they want to pursue in the future, because it can be intimidating. And so that's what STEMUp is focused on, and will continue to focus on for the duration of our existing. And so as the founder and executive director of STEMUp, I oversee all of the initiatives, including partnerships with other organizations, as well as global outreach. So ultimately, my role is to oversee everything, and also to coordinate particularly the partnerships. So we're launching a campaign this upcoming fall 2025 with Elks MBS, which is like a scholarship program that I won. And together we're partnering with Cornerstone Bakery, which is a bakery here in the US, to provide funding for one of our projects, which will be working with a local mosque in my community. And so STEMUp, like, what does it do? So we provide a variety of initiatives, primarily including social media campaigns, virtual workshops, speaker events, and really just any campaign that we can run through social media, as well as through in schools, like in my university as well. And so really it's just as much outreach as we can get in terms of this goal of promoting female representation in STEM. So how was STEMUp really evolved? How was it begun in the first place? Well, again, as someone who's always been interested in STEM, ranging from aviation to now science, I've really thought it was a mission of mine to be able to create an initiative where I could see someone like myself who wears the hijab advocating for such an important topic. And I've seen, young girls throughout the nation and internationally, including where I'm from, which is Morocco, unfortunately not have resources in terms of education. And so I knew that this was something I wanted to advocate for. And so that's really how STEMUp grew in that sense. And so ultimately, STEMUp believes diversity drives innovation. And our goal is, again, to create a more inclusive and representative future for STEM globally. And so really, we just want to advocate for this in an international basis. So this is just a bit of information, again, explaining what I just verbally stated. But in terms of like my background, I'm rising sophomore at the University of Maryland College Park, majoring in neuroscience in the pre-med track. I want to become a physician scientist, so obtain my MD, PhD, and ultimately become a practicing clinician scientist neurosurgeon. And so that, again, really fuels my interest in continuing my work with STEM Up as the director of it. And so again, we really just want to focus on bridging the gender gaps in STEM Up, or in STEM as a whole, through a variety of partnerships. So we have done collaborations with Giving Tuesday, which is a international like organization, particularly the, I guess you could say, like chapter here in the US. Since I was an ambassador through them, we also have done a variety of projects where ultimately our goal is to increase access to learning materials, and also just any resources, young girls or just any student may need in terms of succeeding in school. So again, as I stated, we are launching a project this fall of 2025 where we're going to be partnering with the Islamic Community Center of Laurel, ICCL. So this is a more like community-based initiative. And what we're going to be doing is distributing STEM educational toolkits to girls from preschool through college within underserved communities. And we have done similar projects like this in Morocco, which is where I'm from, ethnicity-wise. And so again, we're partnering with Cornerstone Bakery to do this project. And so ultimately, just to end it off, STEM Up is again dedicated towards, just creating a more inclusive platform and environment for young girls and women, particularly from underrepresented minority and communities that, may not see themselves being a next scientist, physician, astronaut, clinician, whatever it is. So we want to make that goal achievable. But in addition to that, we want to provide the resources, because the main goal of STEM Up is to provide the resources for young girls and women to succeed. Because again, our core belief is that if you do not have the resources in the first place, how can you go and achieve, these very ambitious goals that I myself had when I was a young girl? And so that's really what STEM Up is focused on doing.
Thank you so much. That is truly so inspiring, and I can't wait because I have so many questions for you. We're going to move on to our next panelist, Tess. Take it away.
Hey guys, my name is Tess Ligas, and I'm the press director for the Log Off movement. Log Off is a youth-led, youth-founded organization that advocates for safer and healthier relationships with social media and your phone. So in my role, I manage all the media requests and communications for the organization, doing things like interviews, panels, working with media outlets, writing talking points and speeches. I'm a graduate of the University of Michigan, and my work primarily focuses on the intersection of policy and accessibility, making sure we know what the law is and what the best avenue to take is to be a participating member of society. And our movement as a whole is about promoting digital safety and well-being, and how to lower your screen time and maybe get outside of it more. So on the next slide, I've got some more information about our movement as a whole. So the Log Off movement was also founded about 5 years ago, where our founder, Emma Lemke, saw a need for more awareness to be raised about the impact social media was having on mental health. So our advocacy work focuses on raising awareness for how, things like doom scrolling and spending hours upon hours every day on social media is affecting our mental health. We're dedicated to uplifting the younger generation and letting them take the reins of their relationship with their phone and empowering them to maybe step away for a little bit or really think about how their time online is impacting their relationships in the real world. And we want to provide young people with tools to take control of their screen habits and remember what it's like to build community offline. So I'm really excited to be speaking with you all today.
Thank you so much. And that is definitely like a very real thing going on right now. And I know, like me, myself, building communities in real life is so important. And we're definitely losing that in our generation. So this is really a great movement. We are now going to, I don't think we're going to join breakout rooms because I think we have a good enough group to all listen to the questions. So we are going to just move on. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. One sec. All right. We are going to have our little Q&A session. I have some questions for our amazing panelists, and then I will open the floor for everybody. To start us off, what advice would you give to someone considering to start their own project? Whoever wants to start, go for it.
I think my biggest piece of advice is not to be scared of rejection. And a mantra that I've chosen to live by, especially when I was in college and as I started applying to jobs and internships and stuff, is the idea of doing it scared. And that, like, even if you're nervous about someone saying no or an idea not taking hold, you have to try. And so, if you have something you're passionate about and if you have a message that needs to be shared, do it scared. Share it scared and just go for it.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. So, like, don't be afraid of anything. Just know what you're passionate about and go for it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would add on to the answer that Tess so perfectly stated. In my opinion, like, again, first of all, like, just do what you're passionate about, and again, like, don't be scared while you're doing that. I think, with starting initiatives, a lot of, the fear and anxiety can come with, again, just the fear of rejection. I'm going to be rejected from this. What if someone doesn't like my project idea? What if, this goes wrong? It's a lot of, like, what ifs and really, like, theoretical ideas. But I think as long as you sort of remove yourself from that mindset of, even if I get rejected, it's perfectly fine. As many state, rejection is simply redirection. And so as long as you sort of quote unquote go with the flow and just keep moving forward, I think you can achieve your goals. And I think it's easier said than done, because even for me, like, starting STEM up was not an easy feat at all. Like, I was in high school, a freshman during the time, and it was COVID. And so you can imagine, like, sort of what was going on mentally, and sort of like everything that I was dealing with. But even throughout that, I knew I had a goal in mind and I knew I had a passion. And so my, interest in wanting to help others, particularly, again, like young girls and women, like, even just in my community, and then eventually, we'll work towards spreading this project sort of like on a national and international basis. I think, first of all, like, it takes time. And so in addition to, just being open to the idea of rejection, first, again, like, have patience, in addition to that. But throughout all of it, just really remain resilient. I think it's again very difficult to start initiative and then just think of the idea, like, why isn't this blowing up, or why aren't I succeeding at all of these things? But again, like, it takes time to fully be able to succeed and come, your project to come to fruition. And so I think having passion, first of all, you need to do what you're passionate about. You cannot, in my opinion, do something just for the name, or sort of like an arbitrary idea. Like, it has to be something that you are genuinely interested in. And then, in my opinion, I believe, like, the hard work will come naturally to you. And then in addition to that, you'll naturally become patient, and then you'll start to see your hard work coming to fruition. But again, the biggest thing probably I could say is simply, again, like Tess said, don't be afraid of rejection. Again, rejection is redirection. I've been rejected so many times, like, I probably can't even count it. But again, I'm so grateful for all of those rejections, because they simply have led me to where I am today. And so, just remain resilient, persevere, and I'm just telling you, like, you'll reach your goal.
Thank you so much. And I think we all need to keep that in mind for all aspects of life, like whether it's school or friends or work or starting our own organization. So thank you so much. My next question for you guys was, like, what inspired you to start your project or your organization? Was there a specific moment? Was it the message? Just elaborate on that.
I would say for me, what's inspired me to start STEM Up primarily was the lack of representation that I would see, like, in terms of being a woman who wears the hijab, which is like the scarf I wear every day. I would say that would be primarily the reason. Growing up, like, I of course saw, like, so many amazing role models that come from a variety of underrepresented and minority backgrounds, but being someone who often felt like I was the only person, and many times I really was, wearing a hijab. Like, it was very odd to me that there was a lack of representation in that sense. And I think especially with me, from a young age, I've always been interested in going into medicine, and particularly, like, neurosurgery. I think the lack of representation in that field, especially when you look at how many women are in that specialty, I believe it's like less than 5%. And if you filter it down, like, with the women who wear hijab, like, it's probably like less than 1%, honestly. Like, it's very little. And so I would say that really interested and sort of like began the spark I had to start STEM Up. But again, I would say, in addition to that, it was really just my ambition. I was a very ambitious individual in high school. I wanted to accomplish so much in such a little amount of time, which is great, because it led me to start STEM Up. But I think, wanting to see a representation in terms of where I come from and sort of who I am culturally, in addition to wanting to help, of course, other young girls and women across the world, especially where I'm from in Morocco. There's a huge under-resourced community in the village where my grandma's from, and so oftentimes every summer I would visit that village and see the young girls just simply not receiving any education at all. And I would think to myself, if they received books, if they received pencils, if they received any type of material that could even allow them to gain a grasp of what education feels like, for me, which I'm so fortunate enough to have here in the US where I was born, I think that would change their worlds and allow them to accomplish these very bright and ambitious ideas they have of becoming a doctor, becoming a engineer, whatever it is. And I know they're talented. It's literally just the lack of resources they have. And so all of these three sort of ideas really culminated into me wanting to start SumUp. And I think knowing that it's going to take a long time, and it's still probably going to take an even longer time to launch this, as long as I'm doing my part in spreading this message of female representation in STEM, I think to me that's the most important idea. And I know that to me will serve any purpose greater than anything else I can do in my life.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful and amazing to hear. We'll pass it over to Tess.
So our executive director, Emma Lemke, who started Log Off in 2020 after the first few months of quarantine and experiencing kind of the separation from her peers and realizing how much social media was dominating her mental health, her headspace, her day-to-day life. And she really wanted to create a place where people could remind themselves what it's like to be friends in person and not put so much weight on social media, not playing the comparison game and not looking at other people's Instagram posts and saying, oh, their life is so much better than mine. And then I decided to join the movement just over a year ago because during college I volunteered with elementary schools in the area to work with kids on their literacy skills. And one thing that I noticed was that, and one thing I talked with their teachers a lot about, was that it was getting harder and harder for young children to make friends because they are getting more and more reliant on digital outlets instead. And so to me, that really struck me, and I wanted to get involved in something that would be an advocate for getting offline. And I'm happy to have been brought to the Log Off movement.
That's amazing. I have two more questions, but first of all, hence the theme of August and the theme of this webinar, we're all about empathy and kindness. So can you guys explain how your organizations inspire people to practice empathy or kindness?
Definitely. One thing that we try to talk about a lot as Log Off is reminding people that there is a real human behind the screen when you're interacting with people online. Our mission is not to get people off their phones and off social media completely. It's about fostering a healthy relationship with these platforms and using it in a productive way. And so being reminded that when you're seeing posts on Instagram or someone sending you TikToks or using Snapchat or whatever, you're talking to real people who have real backstories and friends and feelings and likes and dislikes, and having more grace for what someone posts. I think there's been a push in the last year about making social media a little bit more casual, which is a swing in a better direction of normalizing things that aren't so picture perfect. And so leading with empathy and leading with grace when it comes to being a good steward of an online account is definitely a forefront of the Log Off movement.
Definitely, and that also aligns with what Digital4Good is trying to accomplish. So that's why your organization is just so inspiring, and we're so happy to have you here.
I would definitely add on to what Tess mentioned in terms of just having empathy and understanding really for everyone who's involved in your organization. So in terms of STEM Up, since we do a lot of outreach virtually through social media, in addition to in-person collaborations with other organizations, everyone is coming from a different background, different culture, different religion, etc. And so our goal really, for all our volunteers and members who end up joining STEM Up is to, first of all, be understanding of, anyone, no matter their background. And so that is probably the biggest part of our empathy plays a role in terms of STEM up. In addition to that, we do work a lot with international communities. So again, I mentioned we had a previous collaboration in Morocco, which is where I'm culturally from. Again, like the young girls there, they do not speak any English. They only speak Berber, which is like the indigenous language, which is culturally, again, like my parents speak Berber. So it was interesting to be able to, get to interact with them. But since I knew them personally, I think for me, it was very easy to be able to empathize with them and understand the struggles they've been through, where, oftentimes they're really just subjected to this role of, being in the kitchen, quote unquote, and sort of serving like this, I guess you could say, like stereotypical like housewife role. And so it was difficult at first, understanding that, again, like where I'm from or born in and live in the US, like that really isn't sort of the mainstream idea of like the role women should be playing. And fortunately, education is so advocated here in the US. And so for me, it was really being understanding of, what it's like to be in their shoes and, having to go through all of these struggles your entire life. And so in addition to sort of having like an international perspective of like how to interact with others, it's very important to, just be able to empathize with those individuals and young girls. And so here in the US, a lot of our collaborations just deal with local community, sort of religious like worship places. In addition to elementary schools is a very common place where we do collaborations. Again, you need to be able to empathize where these individuals are coming from. They may have not had the resources they always have wanted, or again, like they may not be able to understand, very complex topics in science. And so being able to really break down concepts in addition to, comprehend what they're going through, I think is the biggest role that empathy can play in terms of what we do as an organization. So I think it's always very important to be able to empathize with, individuals regardless of, again, where they come from, their background, and no matter what project and initiative you're leading, quote unquote. But in addition to STEM up, it really is one of our founding principles to be able to just understand. Because even for me, like it's hard for people to understand, why I wear the hijab or why I'm doing what I'm doing, or even why I'm interested in like neurosurgery as a clinical specialty. But again, it's being able to, even understand from their perspective that, you need to be able to empathize, with the person you're speaking to, because again, no one comes from the same place. Everyone starts on a different sort of like floor or level. And so sort of just to end it off, I know someone mentioned this earlier, I believe it was Tess, but again, like comparison is a thief of joy. I think that's a principle I have always gone by. And so unfortunately, like even I've been in the shoes where I've compared myself to others and sort of not being able to empathize fully. And, being able to do this is critical, especially with the organizations that we work with and the initiatives that we run. And so STEM Up really promotes empathy, and it's very important to have, like, as sort of a founding principle in our organization.
Yeah, two great answers. And empathy is just, I think, something that people can easily overlook, but it is so important to have in our everyday life. Kindness is free. We all hear that. It's so important to carry yourself and, exercise those values. So I'm going to just finish with my last question and then I'll open the floor. But what is your favorite thing about your project? Why do you stick with it? Why do you keep going?
I think my favorite thing about STEM Up is just the impact we make. I think it's always so rewarding, to be able to see the young girls and women and students that we're able to help as a result of our initiatives. I think it gives me a special type of gratitude that I really don't feel often. It's a very special feeling. And so I would definitely say the impact, just being able to see someone literally have no resources, like in terms of education. So they have no books, nothing. They're not enrolled, again, like in any school or tutoring or anything like that. Again, their family is very poor. They don't have anything ultimately. Being able to work with those individuals that are so passionate, like they have a dream, they literally just don't have any resources to do so. I think watching their transformation and watching their growth to me is probably the biggest thing. And staying in touch with the individuals we work with, again, the volunteers, it's so inspiring, to see again the happiness that they have as a result of working with these amazingly talented students. And I really hope like in the future that SumUp can sort of grow into a more like international project. But I would definitely say the impact we make is probably the biggest thing. It's wonderful to have an idea and to be ambitious, and that's definitely how SumUp started. But being able to really put an idea to fruition, and even just to make a small impact, really is where the gratitude and happiness comes from me. And probably one of the best things is just again working with the students that we work with, in terms of those we're helping with in our initiatives, but also the volunteers. I think collaboration is key in everything, especially science, when you think about it. And so being able to have that openness and to socialize and collaborate, I think all of that sort of leads to this amazing sort of impact. And to me, again, that impact is probably the best thing that gives me the most happiness. And I'm sure I could say the same for all the organizations and volunteers that we work with as well.
I think for me, it's the community that we've built. It's one of the tenets we were founded on is this idea of like you're not alone in this feeling that social media might feel like it's consuming your life a little bit. And so to see our message resonate with so many people from across the country and across the world has been really incredible. Um, we have initiatives starting at a lot of college campuses around the US, so getting students involved and hearing from real people that they've felt the same way that we have about our relationships with our phones has been really um, reinforcing of our mission to hear. And the fact that Log Off has reached outlets like the New York Times, CNN, the Forbes 30 under 30, like all that has really made us feel validated in our mission. And we know that there is a space for us in advocacy, and we've built such an incredible community, and I'm so thankful for it.
Two great answers. I think you guys both mentioned like working with people, seeing your impact, and that is truly so powerful. And congratulations to both of your movements for being able to do that and for being successful. I'm going to open the floor, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to shout them out. If your mic isn't working, you can drop them in the chat and I can say it for you. But yep, the floor is yours. Go for it, Oriane.
I'm not sure if my mic is working, but the question I had was like, when you're starting like a nonprofit or like you're starting an initiative, like how do you like build a team or how do you find like team members? Because you guys seem to be like really passionate, and a lot of the time, like when you create a nonprofit, it's like meant to be for like empowerment and like people that are very passionate about like starting a nonprofit. So how do you find those people?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. In terms of how to find people to work with, for me, the biggest sort of help, I guess you could say, was reaching out to my friends and those that I knew that would potentially be interested in the idea that I wanted to focus on, which was female representation in STEM. But again, even through reaching out to them, once we sort of had like a basis. So for me, how it worked was I did have a couple of friends who wanted to sort of come on and sort of help STEM up launch, but a lot of the launching was hard work from my end. So I guess you could consider it like a mix, but really I would say the biggest thing is reaching out to those who might be interested in that. But again, organizations, that's another big thing. So STEM Up has been fortunate enough to receive 3 primary grants from Cornerstone Bakery now. We've received one from the GripTube Challenge, which is a very common funding agency or organization rather for youth ideas and organizations. And then we've also received the Hershey's, not like nonprofit, I believe, grant, but it was essentially like from Hershey's. And so that was another huge help, was reaching out to these organizations that could provide the funding for STEM to be launched. And a lot of it is logistical. Like once you have a couple of friends or individuals who might be interested to work in, it really just is organization at that point. You need to be able to delegate the tasks on you do this, etc., and just sort of I guess you could say like have organized a layout of how to tackle launching this initiative, organization, whatever it is. And for me, STEMUp wasn't the first thing I've launched like countywide organizations or like a project, I guess you could say. And that was reaching out to a student, or not a student board member, but a board member of education in my county that I live in at the time. And so even just that, it was reaching out to networks and sort of connections that I knew. So another big thing is network, make sure your networking skills, I guess, are up to par to a certain degree. But yeah, just reach out to those and sort of from that, it will naturally start to come to fruition in terms of the members working on your team, and from that, once you have a team of individuals, whether it's small or big, it really doesn't matter the size. But first of all, make sure they're passionate about what they're doing. Because again, I believe passion will sort of supersede any size team you can have. I think it's great if you have a big team, but STEM Up is not really large. I mean, it's awfully small. We have less than 25 primary members leading STEM Up. And so, again, just being able to, outreach work and start from a small sort of point, and then eventually it'll lead up to an even larger sort of team. And so being able to reach out to those, in addition to organizations for funding and help, definitely for me would be the biggest things that helped me launch STEM Up. But also, I'm sure if you're interested in starting an initiative, which I would highly encourage you to do, I'm sure they would help you as well. So again, just don't be shy and reach out. Even if it's cold emailing, as long as you try, it's the biggest thing, because you never know until you ask.
So I don't have too much to add. I think this is a way you can use social media in earnest and for good. Make a LinkedIn post. You can also find interested people on forums like Reddit or Discord. A lot of people are sharing their interests on sites like that. And I'm going to second, don't underestimate the power of a cold email. I've gotten at least 2 jobs by cold emailing people, so you never know what could happen.
And I love that you mentioned social media, because it truly is such a big hub for finding people that have similar passions to you. And so even though we're all about using digital safety and using digital for good, there are ways to use that for good. And this is one of them. So thanks for bringing that up. Any other questions? Go for it, McKenna.
Hi everybody. Again, it's so great listening to you guys and all of your advice and projects. One question I have for both of you is, where do you plan on taking your initiative and your project? Because I can see both of you guys have such strong passions for what you're doing, and I'm just interested, what are your next big steps for your project?
Great question. So this upcoming year, the log off of it is we're planning on putting some more focus on our in-person chapter development at colleges and universities. So we have some people on our team who are working on community outreach, and we're going to be putting together an educational guide so that people who want to join the cause on their own campuses can start their own chapters of Log Off and be having in-person conversations and bring the movement right to where they are. So we're really excited to be leaning more into that.
Yeah, I definitely would second what Tess mentioned. STEM Up really wants to primarily focus on our next initiative, which is launching the educational toolkits in terms of the local community we're working with here in Maryland. And so that's our next project. And so once we have that, and even throughout that project as well, we really want to focus in launching STEM Up, hopefully sort of on a school by school basis. Our goal really within the next, I would say 2 to 3 years, would be to have at least 10 to 15 chapters of STEM Up, primarily in high schools, because again, that's where I started STEM Up. And so I think it would be a full circle moment. But again, high schools and then hopefully college universities. So in my university as well, I'm hoping to start a STEM Up chapter. And so really what we're looking at is to, bring STEM Up to you, as you can say, or as what Tess mentioned earlier. And so that's our goal. And again, we want, the idea of providing resources to young girls and women, wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you, live in a particular state or country, etc. We want this to, first of all, be a really recognized sort of nationwide project. And then from there, we're really hoping to make it hopefully more international. But again, that's going to probably take at least 5 years, depending on how much funding as well as outreach we're able to hopefully get in the next few years. And so that's really the goal. We want STEM Up to be, an organization that's, first of all, accessible. We don't want it to be difficult to join STEM Up. We want it to be really easy to join. But then in addition to that, we want it to be, an organization that you can go to if you need any type of resource. And so that's what we're hoping for, is in addition to the projects that we're working on, we want to start chapters in high schools, and then from there move to universities. But then on top of that, we want hopefully STEM Up to be an organization that can be seen as, someone to go to, if you need a textbook, or if you need, even just a funding grant for an initiative you want to start in your own high school. And I think sort of that giving back sort of moment, I guess you could say, really is a huge goal of STEM Up. We want it to, be I keep saying be a lot, but we want it to be somewhere where you can seek the resources you need, but also be able to, spread the message of female representation in STEM, across the globe. Why it's important to have women at the forefront of science, why it's important to, see female engineers, building the next sort of startup tech company. And I think a huge inspiration as well has been a couple of scientists, one of which I need to mention, Dr. Jennifer Doudna. She was a huge inspiration of starting STEM Up. I love her. Like, she's such an amazing, again, role model. And so just being able to, have amazing role models and hopefully mentors in STEM Up, being able to mentor young girls, I think is another project we want to sort of launch on a chapter by chapter basis. And again, it's just to, increase our social media outreach as well, and hopefully be able to make, an even greater impact across the nation, community, as well as world.
Thank you so much. And I know both of you mentioned expanding into different colleges, in your case, into different high schools. So for all of the interns listening, like, this is a great opportunity to stay connected with them, because if STEM Up is interesting to you, if Log Off is interesting to you, like, you can be a part of this. Send out those emails, connect with them. So yeah, those are great goals, and I can't wait to watch them happen. Ari, you had your hand up.
My question is just, as your initiatives are expanding and getting bigger, what are some values that you as an organization are gonna like keep near to your heart as you're getting bigger and bigger?
Great question. I think for us, definitely maintaining streamlined communication between all our directors and really making sure we know kind of who's in charge of what, and who's tackling what comes through the inbox, and if there's new projects, who's taking over what duties, to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Because as you get bigger and bigger, your portfolio kind of diversifies in terms of what you're actually managing. And so it's been exciting to bring new people onto the team, but we're also trying to stay true to making sure we're organized and communicating with each other all the time. So communication is definitely key, especially in a youth-led organization and a peer-led organization, to make sure everything's running like a well-oiled machine.
I would definitely add on to what Tess mentioned in terms of, communication being key. I think communication probably is one of the most important foundational sort of skills that, we need STEM Up to continue to have, and traits as well. And I think being able to communicate effectively, with your team members, with the volunteers you work with, the people you're impacting, is incredibly critical, especially when you consider people coming, again, from different backgrounds, different religions, etc. They all have different perspectives. And so being able to, again, have empathy, but also understand, where they're coming from, but communicate effectively. So, if they speak a different language, you need to be able to translate or have a translator on site. If they don't know, again, like fully what they're saying, or they can't, again, speak, English 100%, I think, being able to sort of meet them at their level is so important, especially when you look at, clinicians and scientists and sort of what STEM Up really advocates for in terms of STEM. Again, communication is so important. Like, as someone who does research myself, I need the skill, or always need the skill of being able to communicate my science to someone who literally does not understand anything at all, like to a 5-year-old. And that same concept of being able to communicate, in any way, is incredibly important, because again, everyone is different, everyone comes from different backgrounds. So communication definitely is key in that sense. But in addition, STEM Up definitely will, hopefully, but definitely should be able to carry on, just again, the concept of working hard. I think hard work, again, like I'm sure with many organizations, was how STEM Up sort of first originated, and it's been something I've always gone off. Starting an organization freshman year of high school is not easy at all, and so having the hard work, perseverance, and really just diligence is super important. again, being able to run tasks individually, delegate tasks to your other team members. Again, all of this needs organization. So definitely, perseverance and just being able to work hard in an effective, communicative, but also organized manner is incredibly important for SEMUP to continue having. Because again, we want to make sure our organization is being run smoothly, no one is having any difficulties or trouble. So these are definitely like key foundational principles. But I would also say, in addition to that, probably another huge part is just having fun. I think doing what you're passionate about, gives you again a sense of gratitude and feeling that you can do what you love, but also have fun throughout this or initiative you're leading. And so leading STEM up has definitely been challenging, but it's been incredibly rewarding. And so I think having this mindset that what I'm leading is very high end sort of, and there is so much responsibility on me, and even my other team members that I work with, but at the end of the day, what I remember is that I'm doing what I love. And again, I believe doing what you love should always be fun. You should wake up every day thinking, okay, I'm gonna run this initiative organization, but I'm gonna love doing every second of it. And so that is probably one of the most important, again, skills and sort of traits that STEM Up has. It's very important. Again, passion is key. In addition to communication, hard work, and perseverance, diligence, and organization skills. A lot of skills, but all of these I think are needed for effectively running an organization, particularly STEM Up.
Thank you so much. Communication is definitely key. So I think those were both great answers. And as they mentioned, they're both trying to start new branches and things like that. You can't just fully disconnect with them. You always have to stay one single organization, stay connected. And so thank you guys. Are there any other questions before we wrap this up? Janine, go for it.
Hi, this is a question that's more like tailored to Tess and the log off movement, but I think it's super like helpful and practical for everyone here. I was just gonna ask, like, what's something like in the existence or your time of like being a part of the log off movement? Like, what are some practices that you have seen are like effective for like helping people actually like turn off social media or step away from their phones? Because I feel like personally speaking, like I'm on Instagram way too much, or I'm on doom scrolling so much, so I like really resonate with that. So I was just like wondering what's like something you've seen.
That's a great question. I think one thing that I have not been as conscious of until I started with the log off movement was like verbalizing my screen time. My phone tells me what my weekly average screen time is every Sunday at 9 a.m. And we found that if you have to tell someone what that number is, if it's high, you'll make an effort to change that number and lower it. So being more aware of what that number is and actively thinking to yourself, okay, how can I get this 20 minutes lower next week? Okay, what about an hour lower next week? We also ran a campaign called the Forks Up, Phones Down, or yes, Forks Up, Phones Down movement. Sometimes I switch those, where we encourage people to have dinner with their friends where their phone was not in the room or not easy to access. That's a really, meal times are really popular times for people to be spending on their phone, whether you're watching a YouTube video or scrolling on TikTok or just scrolling on whatever you like to scroll on. So we were encouraging people to have dinner with their friends where they are not using or referencing things on their phone at all. And instead, we created a toolkit where there were question prompts and games and ways that they can engage in person. And then some reflection at the end of the dinner of how did it feel to not be on your phone while you're eating? What was it like to take that step away? Can you do that again? Are there ways that you can just do that every day in your life where you say, you know what, I'm gonna leave my phone in the other room while I do my laundry, or while I go for a run, I'm gonna put my phone on airplane mode. I have my downloaded music, but I don't want to get any notifications. So being mindful of when you can take a step back has really made a difference in my own life too, I think.
That's a great answer. And funny you mentioned the screen time report, because I kid you not, one time my 0 period teacher made us all show her our phones and our screen time reports because we were complaining about not having enough time to do our homework or not having enough time to have fun. And we had to show her our screen time, and she caught us. It was not good. So that's it was a funny thing. Do we have any other questions for our panelists? All right, I'm going to share my screen one last time. I have a few closing remarks. Thank you for this amazing Q&A session. I learned so much. All right. Okay, so here, one sec, because this is not sharing correctly. Okay, perfect. I just want to now wrap us up, talk a little bit about Digital for Good. We have student interns, both in college and in high school, all around the US, and hopefully we're gonna get more international interns. We already have a few in Europe and Canada, expanding slowly, but really, truly, our internship program for students is such a big part of our organization and means so much to so many people. Me personally, this is my second year as an intern at Digital for Good, and I've met a sense of community that I never thought I'd meet before, and I've truly learned so much. So it's been great for me, and I really encourage you guys to ask your friends, tell your classmates about our mission and our internship program. This is just a little rundown. We have Students for Goods every first Sunday of the month, as I mentioned. All of them are different themes. So empathy online. We saw empathy in the log off movement and STEM up. So it was really awesome. Thank you guys both. And these are just some of the next ones. Our September theme is going to be suicide prevention, a little bit of a heavy topic, but so important. I remember this one vividly from last year because it really resonated deeply with me. So anyways, let Students for Good, let your voice be heard. If you guys know of anyone that has their own nonprofit, organization, podcast, any kind of movement, we've had so many different ones, let them know. And please sign up to be a panelist. For you guys, you can also be a panelist again. This is for all of those interns out there and everyone on the call, but please connect with our panelists. They are truly two amazing people and they have amazing organizations. So take this opportunity. Don't take it for granted. And then if anyone has a second, I'm going to copy and paste this, but it's just a little survey form. Okay, maybe it's not going to let us copy and paste. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to stop sharing, but this is just a little feedback survey that I'm going to drop in the chat. If you guys have 2 minutes, I really appreciate it. And I would like to give it to Tess and Jahan to just share one last closing statement to send us all off for today. Tess, would you like to start?
Perfect. It was great speaking with you all today. I appreciate your flexibility in my quirky place I've called it from. So sorry about any background noise. But I really hope that you guys have found something that you're passionate about and take it to the next level. You're never too young to be a change maker, and there's a lot of good in the world that can still be done. So I really hope you guys have taken something away from this seminar. If anyone wants to connect with the Log Off Unit, feel free to email me and I can put you in touch with our executive directors. But I encourage you all also this week to try to lower that screen time by maybe a half hour, maybe get outside a little bit and enjoy your summer. So thanks so much for having me today.
Well, I wanted to start off by thanking everyone for this amazing opportunity. What I would say in terms of, just sort of like a takeaway point would be to do what you're passionate about. I think, passion sort of, again, what I said earlier is, supersedes any, I guess, anxiety or just difficulty you may have throughout the process of any initiative you're starting. So definitely, first of all, do what you're passionate about. But in addition to that, have diligence and hard work, and know that the goal that you want to achieve will be achieved with time. So with time, it takes patience. So definitely have a lot of patience, throughout any initiative. That's something that SNAP definitely has sort of emphasized, to all of our team members and volunteers and, students that we impact, that it's very important, to be able to continuously work hard, but also to, just make sure you're doing what you love. And in the case where you don't, it's always okay to change your ideas. For me, I started off with a completely different imagination of what I would be doing in the future, and it has changed like literally so many times. You can imagine it like as a maze in many ways. And so I think just being able to, go where life takes you is incredibly important. And again, passion will lead you where you're supposed to be. But in addition to passion, just know that, to achieve your goals, it's going to take hard work. But, do the hard work. And I'm very sure at the end it will be incredibly rewarding, as long as, what you're doing is serves gratitude to you, and you enjoy that. And so definitely that is probably the biggest thing I could offer as advice. In addition to, what we do is sum up, we do offer a lot of mentoring to young, particularly girls, who are interested in STEM, but also to any student who wants, just someone to mentor them, give them advice in terms of education, professional, etc. It could be anything. We do offer a few mentors who are able to do that. And so I'll definitely put, in addition to what's listed on the slideshow, my email address. You can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be more than happy to connect with you to ultimately anyone who I have in my sort of networking group, I guess you could say. But yeah, just, do what you're passionate about, and never think that your idea is not worth being heard. I think that's the biggest thing. And so just know that your idea is worth listening to. I'm sure that it will make a huge impact as long as it's something you're passionate about, and, you can work hard for. So, keep at it, never give up. Oh, this is a big thing, never give up. I should have said that earlier. Ultimately, never give up. Yeah, that's probably a huge takeaway, because again, with time you will achieve your goals. Just know resilience, perseverance, and passion are sort of the key drivers to, achieving whatever you want to in life. And I hope you took something away from what I said throughout the seminar. And again, like, feel free to reach out anytime via my email, STEMUP's contact address. And yeah, we'd be more than happy to help.
Thank you both so much. And I did put the contact information in the chat, so it's easy for everyone to access. Make sure you get that before we end today. But yeah, just thank you so much. Thank you for all being here. And thank you to our two amazing panelists. Have a great rest of your night and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.